James Park is CEO of Fitbit. We're going to be talking for a few minutes, and it's interesting. We aren't going to just have one Harvard dropout entrepreneur on stage today. James, like another one you might have heard of, is also a Harvard dropout entrepreneur. Fitbit is not the company that he left Harvard to start. He did a couple others first. But how did you get into this issue of the data about people and the whole health and fitness arena?
Yeah, it was actually maybe a little unplanned, but I think a lot of good things are. So my co-founder and I had started a company in Boston doing peer-to-peer photo sharing, which again, totally unrelated. We ended up selling that to CNET Networks in 2005, and we spent a couple years at CNET. And then at the end of that time, it was late 2006, back then I still had time to play video games, so still a huge gamer, and Nintendo announced the Wii, super excited. I remember waiting at Best Buy at 6 a.m. for several hours in San Francisco for the console and took it home. And I was just really amazed by the way Nintendo had combined, sensor with connectivity, made gaming into something that was very active and fun and positive, as opposed to the traditional view of video games and video gamers as couch potatoes and an activity that was very sedentary. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. If you think back to the press in that time frame, you read all these stories about kids getting off the couch, families getting together, all of that. And my co-founder and I thought, how do we capture that magic and put it into a more portable form? That was the start of Fitbit.
And what year was that?
That was early 2007. So Fitbit's almost 10 years old at this point in time. I think in technology time frame, that's pretty long. But the realization back then was sensors had gotten to the point where you could package it up into something that was really small, consumer friendly. And more importantly, it was the start of the era of always-on connectivity. When we started, the smartphone revolution still hadn't started. It was about to start with the iPhone, but there's still some technological pieces that weren't there, like Bluetooth Low Energy and a few other things that we had waited for. So in the very beginning, our first product, we actually created a tiny little radio base station that you could plug into your computer. So anytime you walk by with your Fitbit, all your data that you had collected throughout the day would automatically sync in the background. And then when Bluetooth Low Energy came out with, I think, some early Android phones, but most prominently with the iPhone 4, that's when this whole revolution in our company started to take off in a pretty dramatic way.
Well, now you have had such extraordinary success. You dominate this field of personal fitness and quantified self devices. How many are out there in the marketplace now?
Yeah, we've sold about 54 million devices to date. So we're clearly the market leader in North America. We have about 80% market share for activity tracker devices globally. For wearables, we have about 25% market share. So pretty significant. And the most interesting thing that we've seen is, it's not just an American phenomenon. I mean, we see our devices and what we do really resonating well with people around the world.
Well, we've been talking about data a lot this morning. And among others, Eric Topol on stage was rhapsodizing about what's possible, often too slowly, but really possible as data about people becomes much more available to medical systems. And in his opinion, it has to be owned and controlled by them, which is an interesting issue. But clearly, this extraordinary proliferation of data that you, more than any other single company, are contributing to is really, it poses the promise of making a healthier society. So when you look at what you're doing, how do you see it helping make society healthier? And what's the trajectory you see us to be on as a society when it comes to this kind of thing?
Yeah, so as it relates to the healthcare system and our role and how we all work together to make everyone healthier and society healthier, what we're trying to do at Fitbit is use the power of data to really improve healthcare outside of the traditional office or hospital visit. Because what's clear today is the medical community and the medical system has no idea what you do outside of that visit and doesn't really incorporate that data into your care, which is kind of tragic because not only are people many times unaware of what they do, because if you ask people, hey, how active are you? I think without data, you can't really say accurately. I mean, unless you're super physically fit and hey, I'm running literally every day and kind of know I'm healthy. But for most people, what we found is that when we ask them, hey, how active do you think you are? What they think and how they are actually are vastly different. So giving that type of visibility to the healthcare system, I think, is incredibly important, not only to screen people effectively for different chronic disease conditions, but also if they're prescribed treatment, whether it's a change in lifestyle or pharmaceuticals, being able to monitor either compliance or efficacy of that treatment over time. I think these are two things that are not really available today.
So you give it to the individual first, but your hope is that it will increasingly be incorporated into the healthcare system.
Yeah, exactly. I think we've seen various stages of evolution where the first set of people who've really latched onto this are very proactive consumers. Consumers, I think, are the most free to experiment and adopt new technologies as they see fit. The next stage of evolution that we've seen are with employers, where, especially in the US, because self-insured employers bear the direct healthcare costs of their employees, a lot of companies are just looking for different innovative solutions to try to get their employees healthier, more productive, and therefore lower their healthcare costs. So we've seen employers move very rapidly. And then the third will be insurance companies and hospital systems as well, I think.
But you haven't seen that yet.
We're seeing a little bit more movement, but definitely insurance companies and hospital systems have been a little bit more cautious, and there's a variety of regulatory and business and just inertia that's associated with those industries. But I think at this point, there's enough data being produced that shows that being able to capture this data, analyze it, and present it to various people in meaningful forms is going to have pretty substantial impacts on people's health and healthcare costs.
Do you ever, or do you anticipate using this incredible scale with 80% market share in the U.S. to sort of, in effect, lobby to try to get insurance companies and the healthcare system to move more quickly in this arena? Because I will say, at our half-day health sessions yesterday, there was an awful lot of frustration, even among the many doctors and other medical experts in the room, that there is extraordinary resistance in the current healthcare ecosystem to really incorporating some of these new tools, partly because they have implications for how payment happens, who provides care. It throws a lot of things up into the air. But on the other hand, it is provable that it will make people healthy if we incorporate these correctly.
Yeah, definitely the ROI studies are coming out. So, we've worked extensively with a third-party firm to analyze healthcare claim data and tie it with our wearable lifestyle data. And what we've seen is that with employers who've been with us for several years, now they're seeing on average $1,300 healthcare savings per employee. So that's pretty substantial. That was with one of our customers, Indiana University Health. And there's another customer of ours, Dayton Regional Transit Authority. Their annual healthcare spend on their employees is about $15 million. And this past year, they were able to save a few $1 million that was directly attributable to our devices and our corporate wellness program. So all of this data is starting to come out, and all the various players are starting to see that. I think consumers see it, employers see it. I think with insurance companies and hospital systems, there is I think more of an institutional resistance for a variety of reasons, but I think what's going to happen is that there's going to be one large innovative insurance company or system that latches on, and then competition's going to come into play. And I think once there's that first player, I think there's going to be a lot of other systems and insurance company providers who are scrambling to try to catch up.
So these are employers who basically provide or either free or at a discount your device to their employees, and then they keep track of the data, they have access to it.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of our, so we have a group health business. We're deployed in over 70 of the Fortune 500 right now, but this is a system where employer will fully subsidize or partially subsidize one of our devices, and we have an associated software offering as well. And they're distributed out to employees, and they participate in a quarterly annual wellness program. And so this is something that a lot of employers are latching onto. In a lot of our cases, employers such as Bank of America or BP renew every year and distribute these devices out to tens of thousands of employees. Our biggest customer right now is Target, who made our devices available to over 300,000 of their US employees.
Wow. Okay, so you've got a fantastic brand, you've got amazing market share, you've got really good technology that's evolved a lot. Where's it going to go? What's the vision for where Fitbit goes long term?
So where we go long term is, we've really been focused as a company on fitness and wellness. We're going to integrate more deeply into the healthcare ecosystem. I think that's going to be, a longer term story. But where we see having incredible impact is, again, trying to give consumers, patients, doctors, payers, very comprehensive visibility into people's health outside of the medical visit. So that includes us developing more advanced sensors that gather all the relevant biometrics that cover and screen for, the most expensive or the most serious disease conditions, whether it's related to cardiac health, neuromuscular disease, et cetera. There's a lot of opportunity for us there. And then not only that, being able to work with the healthcare system to prescribe treatments. And when we say treatments, it's not just surgery or drugs. It's, things that can affect your lifestyle behavior, whether it's improving your sleep, your diet, or nutrition. People talk a lot about cancer moonshots, et cetera, and cancer treatments. But the fact is, a lot of cancers can just be prevented through lifestyle changes. And I think that's one key, at much lower cost. And I think that's one thing that the medical establishment, because maybe it's not as sexy, kind of misses out on, or it's not as hyped. And then what I talked about before, once these treatments are prescribed, being able to monitor adherence and efficacy in a much more effective way. And that's not only, the ability to monitor how well drugs are working for you and whether you're taking your drugs, but it's also the ability to say, hey, look, to prevent hypertension or to prevent heart disease, you need to be on this type of activity or exercise regimen. And, hey, you're not complying with the guidelines, what's going on, how do we motivate you to comply, and trying to do that in a way that's not Big Brother-esque or too medical, because I think that turns a lot of people off. But again, hearkening back to the original DNA of the company is, how do we make adherence, compliance, and engagement very fun, voluntary, and really exciting? And that's actually where I think Fitbit has a big role to play. I think there's a lot of smart people in the medical community, a lot of great technological solutions, but if people aren't excited to use them, that defeats the whole point. I mean, I can't imagine anyone currently excited to log into their Epic My Health portal or whatever. No. I mean, I don't think anyone ever
not really.
Does
if anyone knows it exists.
Yeah. Exactly. So.
And, well, you've made it fun, which is nice. That's one of the things I think that has led to your extraordinary success. But we would say that right now there's a relatively limited range of types of sensors that you deploy in your products. But it sounds like you're really predicting you will get into a lot of different other kinds of sensors over time.
Yeah, I think it's not just sensors on the wrist, because there's limits to things that you can do on the wrist. But I think, I've said this publicly before, our R&D efforts include, more advanced sensors in different types of form factors. And we really need to expand what we do today in order to provide consumers and healthcare providers a comprehensive look at their health.
Yeah, we had a guy on stage from Logic Inc. yesterday that's doing temporary tattoos that can detect your blood sugar levels and the possibility you might have been infected with a certain disease or whatever. So we also had at our health sessions Proteus, which is building ingestible sensors that can determine whether you took your drugs, what happened when you took them, et cetera. So I can see you guys going in some of those directions.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the potential for optical, electrical, chemical sensors on different parts of your body, not necessarily continuous, but spread across different types of devices that are optimized for the task, I think our ability to gather that data very comprehensively is going to be mind-boggling over the next 2 to 3 years.
Cool. Okay, who has a comment or a question for James? Do I see a hand? Anybody want to say something? Wait, did I see somebody? Oh, okay, yeah, right there. Oh, there's somebody in the back too. We'll go here and then back there.
Hi, really interesting.
Identify yourself, please.
This is Mark Sullivan from Fast Company. Thank you. Interesting comments about sort of integration with the healthcare system. Referring to the recent quarterly results and sort of the guidance you gave, are we seeing sort of a different place for fitness trackers in the culture? I mean, are we reaching a saturation point, like sort of in the mass consumer market with these things, or are we sort of flattening out to get to a growth number that'll be more constant over the next 5 years or so?
Yeah, I think, there's various analogies you can draw. There's the hype, crossing the chasm, hype cycle, et cetera. You could argue that maybe there was an initial hype cycle, but what I've said publicly is, if you just look at the U.S. and, from our own internal research, we've asked people, we've tried to study people, how many people in the U.S. are very interested in the health or fitness and are technologically sophisticated to take advantage of some of the things that we're developing. Found that it's about 66% of U.S. adults, but only 15 to 20% of U.S. adults have some type of fitness or health tracking device. So our opportunity is understanding how we get from that 15% to that 66%. And what that involves, I think, is some of the things that we talked about, which is providing deeper data, deeper insights, and not only that, coaching, guidance, and treatments that actually help deliver very concrete health goals or outcomes. And I think as we start to develop those solutions, I don't think it's going to be one big bang. I think we're going to, get into an environment where it's going to be, maybe not explosive growth, but very strong and steady growth, because at that point, the demand for Fitbit is going to be much more of a need to have than a nice to have. The way I think about it is, sometime in the near future, we should be thinking of devices like the Fitbit as something that's essential to your everyday life. Just as if you don't go into a car today that doesn't have an airbag or a seatbelt, because those are critical life essential safety items, we should be starting to think about Fitbits and other health devices in exactly the same way, and I think we'll get there.
Well, another thing that could play into that, if Obamacare gets thrown out or reformed so that it includes more outcomes-based medicine, which is obviously a key lacking element in it now, we really encourage people being healthier so that healthcare costs go down. That could create a massive new demand for this kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I think that all works together. I think outcome-based healthcare makes total sense. And we already see the impact of that on the way that healthcare systems and insurance companies think about, companies like Fitbit and other players in the ecosystem.
Yeah, we got to see that go further. Okay, back here, yeah.
Hey, James. This is Rich Nieva from CNET. There are reports today.
Here, I see. Okay.
There are reports today that Fitbit has gotten an acquisition offer from a Chinese firm called ABM Capital. But those reports say that such a firm doesn't exist, and the phone numbers associated with it are disconnected. So can you comment on that? And have you gotten an offer from a firm called ABM Capital? Thanks.
Well, it's hard to call back when their phone's disconnected. I think, what we're starting to say now is we haven't received any offer from ABM Capital or any other company or firm. So that's what we can say at this point.
And it's not a press conference here, but anyway, who has another question? Over here, that's not a press question. Good. I know who that is. Get the mic there, and then we'll have to make this the last one, I'm afraid.
Sure. Hi, I'm Keely Henderson. I'm with Rocky Mountain Institute, and my question is a little bit more about the sort of the environmental exposures, and I'm just wondering if you have thought about making those connections to the environment, clean air, water, toxins, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I think water and air are definitely, very important inputs into people's health, especially if you think about conditions such as asthma and other pulmonary diseases. So, at Fitbit, I think we will be looking pretty comprehensively at, again, all the inputs, because I think, if you consider all the questions that a doctor should ask about your health outside of the office, they should be, not only in the U.S. but particularly internationally in China and India, they should be asking, what are all the environmental factors that relate to your health? And I think a lot of times, people don't understand that, and I think that's where devices that assist in collecting all this data will help out tremendously, whether it's air quality monitors, whether it's things related to the water, et cetera. So I think, that's definitely part of what companies like Fitbit should be doing.
It's amazing what people don't know about themselves. One of the things Deanna Farrell, who formerly was at the White House, McKinsey Global Institute, and now at JP Morgan Chase Institute, didn't say was that one thing they have learned about when they do BLS census data about, when they ask people what your income is, people don't even know their income. They don't know their monthly income. So data about people has to be quantified more objectively.
No, exactly. I mean, there's that show like House MD, right, where one of the big slogans is, everybody lies. It's not because everybody wants to lie. Sometimes it's because they don't know or they're embarrassed. But I think, technology can play a very assistive and proactive and positive role in that bridge.
Well, thank you for helping us know so much more.
Great.
Great to have you.
Thanks.